Hello, and welcome to another episode of Is This Train Without a Conductor Still Headed Off the Cliff? Where democracy dies? Question mark. Yes, we are. And I would like to start by saying au revoir, adieu, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye to the following people who are no longer part of the 45th administration. Some will be missed, some will be luckier to have been forgotten, and some may still wind up in jail. So the following are those whom will be missed. Number 1, James Comey left the administration as the most famous firing since Nixon fired Special Prosecutor Archibald Cox in 1973, leading to the resignation of 2 senior DOJ officials. This happened on May 9th after it was reported that he, Comey, would not be laying off the Michael Flynn investigation. Comey has since had his day in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Weeks later, only this time it was as a private citizen. His testimony exemplified honor, credibility, respect, and a high level of competence, which I have already reported on. To the joy and amazement of many, he directly referred to our current sitting president as a liar on national public TV, also which I had previously reported on. Not much has been heard or seen of him since his hearing, but the position for head of the FBI is still currently vacant. Number 2, Sally Yates is another of the larger and more recognizable figures to represent this first-term president's disastrous decision-making skills. After warning the Trump administration to the level of threat that the National Security Advisor Michael Flynn posed to the United States of America, she was put on the short list, the size of Trump's hands, of deep state operatives that would soon look for any excuse to get rid of. The moment came when, as the acting head of the DOJ, Department of Justice, she refused to defend the President's Executive Order 13769, which is the Protecting the Nation from Foreign Terrorist Entry into the United States executive order, which most people came to refer to as the travel ban. She had her day in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee in May, where she, too, exemplified unquestionable credibility and commitment to the security of the United States of America and its laws. Number 3, 2, the 46 U.S. attorneys, including Pete Barcha of New York. The media made kind of a big deal about this, all of them getting dismissed at once, but really it wasn't. Almost all the last presidents have done exactly the same thing. The only inconsistent part about it was that Trump originally alluded to the fact that they were going to keep their jobs, and this was mainly due to the fact of him not actually having a list of representatives to replace them. But when those like Pete Bharara declined to take the president's phone calls, Trump's views started to shift, which was probably 5 minutes after he made the first decision to keep them on. But number 4, moving on, 6 out of the 18 individuals who sat on the HIV Council who thought that they could do more good outside the president's office. Once it was made extremely apparent by the Trump's actual defense of the AHCA that he had no actual interest in supporting or funding assistance to the HIV community. This includes activists like Scott Schultz and Lucy Bradley Springer. Number 5, kind of the unsung spoken hero of his list of fireys, Angela Reid, the first female White House chief usher to actually run the White House. Appointed under Obama and let go under Trump. No reason has been given yet as to why, but if there are obvious things that Trump hates, it is a strong, capable woman and anything associated with Obama. So conclusions can be drawn. 6, the entire Office of Science and Technology Policy, the OSTP, the 50 to 60 policymakers who shut the doors to the office on June 30th of this year. The OSTP was first established in 1976, and now it is no more. Poof. Don't you wish we could do that to our president? It is a government office attached to the executive branch, and his executive power seems to see no importance to science nor technology. Number 7, Walter Schaub Jr., ethics director, resigned only late last week, but immediately booked a Sunday appearance on ABC to reveal that the main reason he left was due to the verbal threats from Reince Priebus after the director continually pushed Trump on the ethics requirements in which he was violating, going toe-to-toe with the administration when it came to the ethics waivers for lobbyists. The later released list of waivers showed that the White House had granted up to a dozen exemptions for aides to work on policy matters they had handled as lobbyists. So much for draining that swamp. So fed up with the president, he will now work in the nonpartisan sector in the same field as ethics. So to all those who we wish could have done more, but had short-lived commitments because the erratic behavior of this president, I cheers whiskey to you. I think my eyes just got about 3 centimeters closer. And good riddance and goodbye. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Number 1, Craig Dean was the head of the National Security Council for the Western Hemisphere in the Trump administration. He came from, and soon returned to, Dean of Administration at National Defense University. His tenure ended in dismissal due to reports of him bashing both, and all of the above, Steve Bannon, Trump, and the administration in general. Not to mention some rumored, lurid comments that he possibly may have made about the first daughter. The first daughter that everybody knows, not the one that's hiding as a joke. So 2, Garrett Lensing and Caroline Wiles, 2 succubuses who got appointed because mommy and daddy gave a whole lot of money to the Republican Party. So he had an extremely short-lived career in the administration as the chief digital officer. He willingly resigned in February after it was apparent that he was not going to pass the FBI background checks. Wiles left along with 5 other lower-level staffers who were facing the same fate. Number 3, Katie Walsh, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, left the administration to go work for the nonprofit Trump message peddling mechanism, America First Policy, tasked with twisting the message of the repeal and the replace so the Republicans can finally follow through with a 6-year campaign promise. Because as we all know, things aren't exactly going as they planned. So, as a close confidant of Reince Priebus, this move actually shifted the weight of power in Bannon and Miller's favor. Sorry, but not so sorry. Number 4, Michael DeBuch was the White House Communication Director, and he resigned May 30th after being appointed only on February 17th. This is just over 3 months of service. The position is still open. So to all you shoulda, woulda, couldas, didn'ts, maybe has-beens, and future could-be's, a little gin. Oops, I'm not supposed to after every single one of them. And the next list, most likely to see in criminal court. Number 1, and also the most infamous, Michael Flynn, a 3-star general who was the former national security advisor under Trump and served as one of the top military intelligence officers before being let go by the previous administration. Flynn was forced into resigning. He was forced into resigning after it became public that the Russians had compromised on him. He is currently being investigated by the FBI and the special counsel. Thus far, we know he is being forced to post-register as a foreign operative for his work with Turkey, and his company, Flynn Intel Group, is currently being shut down. Number 2, Boris Epstein, who is one of the scariest cluster bombs out of all the people let go by the administration. Born and raised in Moscow, he served in the administration on the communications team after being dismissed because of his poor communication skills. He has since become the chief political analyst of the Sinclair Group, which, for those of you who don't know, is the largest owner of local news broadcasting stations in the United States. So in addition to being the chief political analyst, he also disseminates propaganda pieces marred by falsehoods and insipid ignorance. As the possible Russian mole in the White House, being let go has possibly saved our national security to some degree, but his psyops propaganda peddling on local news broadcasting networks could potentially be just as dangerous. So next, I will go on to the never-wers, those whom avoided the eventual shitstorm, which is the blasphemy of an administration, but would have fit in beautifully. The list does not include the number of people who were offered jobs but turned them down. I could spend a whole nother 20 minutes just talking about those people. This list of people represents those political entities whom are either fired, forcibly resigned, or willingly resigned. People like Andrew Pudster, who was slotted to become the Secretary of Labor. He withdrew his name from consideration almost a month into Trump's administration due to the realization that he was not going to garner the votes to get confirmed because of his overall scuzziness. And just take a moment for that to sink in. For all the Orange Menace and his little minions have said, how hard is it to achieve the class of too poisonous in a basket of poisoned rotten apples? Next, Vincent Viola, a former member of the Armed Services, was set to be the Army Secretary, but due to his extreme wealth and his lack of interest in untangling himself from his financial fortunes as laid out by the Pentagon requirements, he eventually removed his name from consideration on February 18th. Number 3, Todd Ricketts, also found out after almost 4 months of screening that it would be difficult to give up his financial holdings in order to accept the possible position as Deputy Commerce Secretary. So he too offered his undying support for the president and withdrew his name. 4. Philip Bilden, former Navy intelligence and fellow billionaire of the Billionaires Club, withdrew his name on February 26 from consideration for SecNav, aka the Secretary of the Navy, as he too was finding it difficult to comply with the conflicts of interest requirements set out by the Pentagon. Number 5, Jason Miller, a name that we will continue and have continued to hear, was set to become the White House Communications Director, but he withdrew his name after allegations of extramarital affairs with someone from the campaign. So instead, the new father that took a position on CNN as a pundit. I just burped. Number 6, Monica Crowley was said to become one of the many communications specialists for the Trump administration when in March, allegations hit the press regarding her affinity for plagiarism, both in regards to published books and educational papers. Soon after, she was forced to withdraw from the post. Number 7, and cartoon character of an angry, screaming neighbor man, Sheriff David Clark from Minnesota claimed that he was offered the job as Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security for Partnership and Engagement. No one from the White House actually ever confirmed this, and then news of the plagiarism was made public, and eventually he rescinded this claim on June 17th, when he said he would not be taking the post but fully supported the president. So, to all you, I guess, that got out of serving in it, oh God, that's vodka. I'm not even gonna do that. Oh, you just enjoy that. Or no, I was supposed to drink that for the people who should end up in jail for their Russian connections. Yeah, I'm just tossing that out. In or out, rumors or discourse. Anthony Scaramucci, who was passed over for an advisory job, may get his chance now as possible ambassador to the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Of course, he, too, would still have to pass the background checks. Number 2 on the list of in or out rumors. Rex Tillerson. It has been reported he has been unable to run the Department of State the way that he sees fit, being blocked by the executive branch regarding his appointments to top positions. Rumors of his impatience is growing, and possible threats have been made regarding his leaving the post unless he is given more independence. Number 3, David Cohn is a blue blood boy in a run-red government. He took the position as director for the National Economic Council in order to help effect change. It is rumored that he is strictly trying to stick around long enough to enact tax reform, then he is escaping out the closest emergency exit. Number 4, Spicy Spicer has been looking for a replacement to press secretary for 1 month now, but the desire to speak for a president that has no idea what he's actually speaking about is a position not easily filled. Needless to say, there is not a long list of qualified applicants. In line with the idea of not a long list of qualified applicants, the administration still has 384 out of the 564 top government nominee positions to fill. One of these is, of course, a new FBI director. Hearings for that position for Christopher Wray begin on July 12th. And before Trump got to Hamburg this weekend, he stopped in Poland, where he was served up a government-choreographed dose of adulation. What started as an embarrassingly crap speech rolled on to chants of Trump, 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 and himself almost turning into a soaking pile of egotistical goo, ate it up with a fervor. Upset by this show, I inquired with my Polish friends as to why they were chanting so. Turns out, the government-controlled broadcasting service, PIS, sent buses to the villages and offered them all free rides to the city to see the American president. So regardless of how much the Polish love all American presidents, this was just a free trip into the city. Oh, in current events, this weekend was the largest meeting of leaders in the world, and it took place right around the corner from Berlin. The protests and demonstrations more resembled May Day events than a peaceful march. Some Germans would argue that this is because the German government tries to suppress dissent. Then some people will blame it on the instigation of anarchists, while others will blame it on the aggression of the police force. The truth is that it's all of them together. I mean, as an American abroad, I have come to understand that it is not as an accepted practice as I thought. Growing up with it, just as I guess growing up with yogurt shops and giant sodas. You just don't think about it. And that there are certain topics that Germans are simply not supposed to discuss in open discourse. Like in the U.S., we have our three. You don't talk about money, religion, or politics normally. They have their own version of that. And that there are, regardless of what side of the political line a German is on, all of them are in awe by the political activism going on in the U.S. and are inspired to be true to their own freedoms. So as all the leaders come together to stroke each other's egos, so much of the tension that has been hiding just under the skin is boiling over in the streets of Hamburg. People on the streets versus people being transported through town in bulletproof and explosion-proof vehicles. Which leads me to this week's fail. The first daughter standing in for her father at the Partnership with Africa, Migration and Health working session. As an inexperienced window dressing, her presence was disrespectful to other nations involved and the actual people at the State Department who understand the implications that these three issues will have on the global economy. It was disgustingly disrespectful and a show of nepotism and ignorance. But since people like her travel the world in a bubble of bulletproof glass, there's nothing real people can do to stop her and her father from continually making a mockery of the American people. I only ask that she go back to her clothing line and just fade into one of her hemlines. Those giant, stupid, friggin' frack bows on her, like, nude, pink, peach-colored balloon costume. In science, Elon Musk just unveiled the Tesla Model 3. The first $35,000 luxury class electric car to go mainstream for economic pricing. If I'm ever in a relationship, Elon Musk is definitely on my top 5 cheat list. Right next to Colbert. Geek is super sexy, am I right? So thanks, resist, enjoy.